Well, shall we start?
Why not?
Well,
Get into it.
welcome back to What's Not Sports. I'm your host, Will O'Connor. This is the third episode of the 8 and 80 Challenge, and today I'm joined by a very special man, I'd say, in Surf Ironman. He's got a lot of accolades to his name. I'm joined by Tanyn Lyndon. Welcome.
Mate, thanks for having me. It's pretty cool to come on and have a yarn and
Yeah, and I'm excited. I'm keen to pick your brain a little bit today, get to know you a bit more, and yeah, thank you for coming on.
Nah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
So I reckon we should dive in straight away.
Yeah.
Let's start with your youth. So you won 5 junior iron titles in Aussies. Is that right? 15s to 19s?
Yeah, so it was a bit of a stretched out junior career. So I went it was 3 back to back, and then we had 1 year where unfortunately Saxon Bird passed away, so we didn't get to race that year. And then the year after that I ended up winning the under 19s one, and that secured me the 15s and 2 17s and a 19s.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
And you started your career off at Lennox as a junior, is that right?
Yeah. So born and bred down in northern New South Wales in Lennox Head. In 2010 I graduated high school, and I was pretty much already living up here sort of at the start of 2010. Sort of wasn't really too academic at school and that sort of thing. I was kind of just in it to get my HSC certificate, and pretty much drove out of my last exam, and I was up here living full time on the Gold Coast and training out of Northcliffe. And at that time, I think Northcliffe, they were just an absolute powerhouse. It was when they're proper in their era, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, and as a junior in Lennox, what was the training like at northern New South Wales? A little bit more sheltered compared to the Gold Coast and Sunny Coast and Sydney, say. What was that like?
It was interesting, because especially because being a smaller sort of town and community, it was cool because the group that we had were really into it, and it wasn't just a surf life saving group. We'd be at almost every sport, like water polo, swimming, athletics, all that sort of stuff. That we'd sort of come across the same sort of crowd who was in the surf club, and it was the likes of Hannah Scully. Even you look at her and the results that she has coming from Lennox. I think we had a bit of talent there, and fortunate enough that we had a coach that in Lou Wilson who, he actually cared, and he just wanted to see us go and use our potential. And sure enough, we've picked up a few accolades along the way, and big credit to him, I think, especially for nurturing us in the direction to eventually come up here and really pursue it. I think inevitably the hub of surf life saving is the Gold Coast. So coming from a smaller town down in New South Wales, it was sort of it was always going to happen. We had to chase it up here and go and train against the guys who were racing. So it was sort of it was inevitable, but it was pretty sad to go. But hey, at the same time, it was pretty cool.
And you mentioned you had Hannah Scully you were training with. How many others did you have down there? Many role models down at Lennox you were training with or looking up to?
I think there were a few role models, I guess you could say. I think when I look at results-based sort of stuff, I was actually technically my sister was the first one to win an Australian medal for Lennox Head Surf Club, but I was the first one to win a gold medal for Lennox Head Surf Club, so at Aussies. So it was sort of like the calibre of athlete was, not quite there, but I definitely had some other older guys in the opens at the time when I was younger coming through, and, they definitely looked after me, helped me out, took me on, longer paddle backs and stuff like that, which I'd never been exposed to until they were like, oh, we're doing the Coolangatta Gold, and, I was pretty fortunate. And Trent Goulding, who runs the World Ocean Series, so he was in town and studying, I think, at Lismore when I was down there. So he was pretty pivotal for me, and another guy, Robbie Miles, who eventually I ended up working for Carpentry for. So there was definitely some older guys there, but probably not the caliber of athlete that you would get up here.
Yeah, so you were kind of, I guess, the leader in all of that, bringing, I guess, an athlete standard.
Oh, I think yeah. I guess you could say that. I was definitely experimental in it. You know, being from Lennox Head, that's you know, there's definitely a pedigree down there. There's some good surfers that have come out of there and that sort of thing. But definitely in surf life saving, yeah. I'd say so. Yeah, for sure.
That's so cool. Like looking back at your career, not realizing that.
Yeah, it's funny to like, you know, now that you say that, yeah, it's pretty funny to look at that and go, you know, like to be in that position. It's like, wow, yeah, I didn't realise it till now.
And after you finished up your junior years, you said you'd already started training up here at Northcliffe, and you go on to Opens, and you're with, geez, a massive Northcliffe squad with like Shannon, Kane, was Zane still?
Yeah,
Zane's
Zane,
still
yeah,
there?
so yeah.
What was it like making that jump up from being a junior at, well, quite a quiet club to like a powerhouse like Northcliffe?
It was difficult. It was difficult at first because obviously, you know, I think it's really hard, and I found it very difficult for myself. You know, you go from a point of idolising all these people, say like Shannon, Kane, Zane, especially for me. Like I just thought he was the man, and you know, next minute you're training alongside him, and then you know, eventually I ended up getting in the series and. You know, they were still racing full time in the series when I first got in, and you know, next minute I'm racing next to my idols, thinking, "Oh my God, how cool is this?" But like, instead of thinking, "Hey, I've got to win this race" or "I want to win this race," I was like, "Oh, how cool is this?" So it was sort of, yeah, it was difficult, and I definitely learnt a lot from it. And you know, I think now I look back and I could have done some things differently, but you know, at the same time, I think I've had a pretty fun run, and you know, I'm still hanging in there. Like people say, I'm the old dog of the sport, but you know, I'm 33, and I don't really want to let go of it yet. That's for sure.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that. Right? Courtney went till she was 37. You got heaps of time still if you want to keep going.
Yeah,
it's nothing wrong with being the old dog.
Very true. There's nothing wrong with being the old dog, and you know, I'm not the oldest part, so that's the funny part. Everyone thinks I'm older than I am, but yeah.
And I'm actually a bit the opposite. I think of you a bit younger because you came into that Ironman scene like when I was a kid watching it, like tiny, and you were the young kid, and it was, as we just said, Shannon, Kane, Zane, and then you had all those Mooloolaba guys you were racing against, like Ali, like Pooley,
the gun squad.
You know, like that's insane. Like, what was that step up? Like, you're going from a juniors where you've won everything as an Ironman, and you've stepped up to Opens, and you just said you're a bit starstruck by the guys you're training with. But what was the competition level like?
Oh, it was fierce. Yeah. Like it was a step up and a half. Like, you know, I was still in the under-19s when I first came up, and so I still had the junior sort of side of things. But you know, even our age group, you know, we used like Jackson Maynard, Mitchell Miller, Alex Tibbetts, like these guys who we used to race, they were all training with squads who, you know, were just full of just amazing athletes, and you know, just pushing each other more and more, and you know, to come into that environment, especially coming from, you know, northern New South Wales, small little town, it was like, oh wow, right, this is where it's at, this is what's got to be done, like to step up. And I think for a little bit I got lost in sort of the whole move of it all and that sort of thing, but you know, I still look back and I go, it was all just lessons. You know, it was all something that I could learn from, and you know, I think now I definitely, the lessons I've learnt from back then, they're starting to show through now, and like I'm starting to understand it more, and sort of, yeah, as I said, I still want to keep playing, so yeah, you know, I'll try and use them to my favour.
And when you say you got like a little bit lost, what do you mean by that?
Just, I suppose, focus more so than anything, you know, like coming from, you know, as you said, like it was a pretty successful junior career. And then, you know, when the winds dry up a little bit because you're stepping up into either the Opens or, you know, into a harder environment, when when the winds dry up, it can be pretty tough, mentally. Like you can think, oh, why am I doing this? Or, that sort of thing. But I think, as I said, I have such a passion and love for this sport, and, it's kept me going, and I still have that drive to win. Like I still want to get back up on the podium and that sort of thing.
Oh, it's so cool that after all these years, you still got the love for it. That's just something so awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just something about the fact that you're racing, not only the person next to you, but you're challenged by the ocean. That's pretty cool. Not many other sports you get to do that.
Yeah. But even when you came into the Opens, scene, I guess, you were still, I'd say, pretty successful. Was it your first year in the Iron Series you finished top 6? Is that right?
No.
Second?
No, it would have been, I think it was my third year. My third year, I think I was, up there in the top 10 or 6. No, it was, top 10, and then the year after that, I went top 6. Yeah. So it's sort of, like it was, I was there. Like I was there, but at the same time, as I said, I was racing really well in my under-19 sort of era, to then step up into the Opens, it's a step up. Like, and it was racing the likes of Zane, Shannon, Ali, Kane, Kai, like all these guys, and like you made one little mistake or you didn't have that little bit of strength that you probably needed compared to what you did in the under-19s, like it showed big time. So
was there a bit of a mental struggle with all of that?
I wouldn't. Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit just in my own sort of space. I've never really thought about it or processed it in that regard. But I think for me, like I just kept trying to find ways around it and that sort of thing. But it sort of never really dawned on me about being a mental struggle. I I just have
enjoyed it
fun
so much.
Yeah, I just have so much
awesome.
fun. Like that's the thing. I've just always had so much fun doing it. So, and if you're not having fun, what's the point?
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah,
I got to have a bit of that mentality.
Yeah, when times get tough, mate, just try and find the fun in it.
Yeah. And in your time, you're still on the Gold Coast, obviously, but you at Northcliffe, you finished runners up. Was that 2013? Aussies at Mooloolaba or 2014?
I think it might have been 2014. I think it was, maybe. 13-14 season, maybe.
Yeah.
But that was it. I got runner-up in the Opens.
Yeah.
And that was sprint up the beach against Cam Cole.
Yeah.
So close. I think I said to someone someone asked me the other day, they were like, oh, what would you have done if you actually had won it? And I said I probably would have retired on the spot because that's, that means I won one of each, 15s to Opens, so which would have been pretty cool. But in saying that, that's the goal now. Like it truly is. It's to, if I was to ever be able to, get that Open win, I'd be pretty content, and I reckon the Togs would probably get hung up pretty quick.
Yeah. But that's just, you would have only been in your first couple of years of Open still pretty young. Were you even 20 by then? Or
what was I? Yeah, I would have just been 20, 21. So,
Jeez. So
pretty
sick.
young.
That's
pretty
so
young.
cool.
And, it's funny because, the way that whole race panned out, everyone still, questions, oh, where were you in the race at the time? And I was like, no, I was in the fight. I wasn't out the back door. So, as much as it came down to sprint up the beach, you've still got to be on the line. You got to have your toe on the line for the final to be able to have the chance. So, it was, it was a tight race, that one.
Yeah. Who's got a funny, story on that iron is Joshy Minogue.
Oh, yeah.
He reckons he was winning the iron the whole way, and then was the only one that wasn't on the wave.
Nah, that is very true. That's very fair. He the poor bugger. He had a brilliant start and was definitely in the fight for that whole thing, and then he was the one who just didn't get on that wave. Yeah, so poor bugger.
Yeah. Maybe that's why he became a commentator.
Yeah, maybe, staged out.
And then a couple of years later, you've made the move over to Burleigh from Northcliffe. Is that right?
Yeah. So I'd been at Northcliffe for a few years, and I sort of a few things sort of happened in the background, and I was just sort of, I think I need some change, and eventually I got pretty close with Wes Berg, and he was the coach at Burleigh at the time, and I sort of, I really liked his outlook on everything, and I felt like it was sort of very aligned with how I look at things as well. Like, try and find the fun in things, and be happy doing what you're doing because you have the ability and the option to do it, kind of thing. So, so packed up shop and headed down to Burleigh.
Yeah, and how did you enjoy your first stint at Burleigh?
It was great. It was not only great in regards to the sport. It was also great in regards to like outside of sport life. I got lucky enough to get offered an apprenticeship as a carpenter by a bloke who was in the club, Matt Ainsley, and I still to this day I owe that bloke a lot because he definitely changed my trajectory in life. I didn't really know where or what I wanted to do. I'd gone to uni and studied nursing to try and get into paramedicine and all that sort of thing, and that sort of didn't really come to fruition and that sort of thing. So I got offered an apprenticeship. I went and worked for him for a day, and he goes, "Oh, do you want to come in next week?" And then sure enough, he ended up offering me an apprenticeship, and that in itself was massive. Like for me, I felt like I was like, that is like. I didn't realise what it would give me in life, and I'm forever grateful for that because it definitely changed my life big time.
Yeah, wow. And on that, like we'll circle back a bit later on it, but you wanted to get into paramedicine.
Yeah. So I'd always had like a sort of emergency services sort of inkling that I wanted to go down that sort of track. Like inevitably ended up being a fireman. So, I got there in the end. That was my initial thing that I wanted to do. But then coming out of school, I didn't have any indication of what I wanted to do, and I was able to get into nursing. So I did that, and then that sort of fell through, and then as I said, ended up with a carpentry apprenticeship and absolutely loved it. Got to race and train with Benny Carberry, and we did our apprenticeships together because he was actually in a carpentry apprenticeship with Matt too at the time. So that was pretty cool. So we were traveling around together, we were working together. We had such a great crew at Burleigh, and it was really good and like really good vibes, and we were training hard, and Wes was great. So it was for me, it was a good change. It was probably what I needed at the time.
And you've obviously had a few setbacks during that time period.
Yeah, just a couple.
Can you talk through a little bit about that?
Oh, mate, like the old body, it never really held together that well, and it's still it's just hanging in there. But I had a couple of setbacks in. I popped a couple of shoulders, like my shoulder out a couple of times, and a couple of other running injuries and that sort of stuff, and it's a bit of a blur now because it was like everything was just trying to get back to racing sort of thing. But it took a bit of downtime, and it's still kind of a thing for me with like my body. Like I've definitely probably should be trying to do a bit more to get it back up to scratch. But at the time at Burleigh, it was tough because I was trying to work full time as a carpenter, and they're big days on the tools and that sort of thing. And then you're racing and you're training, and the load of that definitely took a toll on my body. But I think I'm all better for it now. Yeah. Being able to suck it up a little bit more.
Yeah, and that would have been a bit of a mental struggle as well. What did you do? Like obviously you weren't able to train, and probably struggled a bit at work. What did you have to do in that downtime when you were trying to heal up?
Yeah, like as I said before, like mentally, I was quite all right with it, and I don't know. I'll probably go and talk to a psychologist and they'd tell me otherwise. But yeah, most of the time I have the outlook of like, it is what it is. Get on with it kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there was downtime there, and I pretty much just worked on everything that I could. Wes was just so great with it all. He'd try and manage everything around it as well as managing everyone else in the club and that sort of thing. And I eventually was able to get back, and then started to find some form again.
Yeah. And then from Burleigh, you then did a stint over at Kurrawa. What inspired that? What?
Yeah. Well, basically, Bergie packed up shop. He wanted to move on, and I was like, oh, well, if he's moving on, I don't really know what I want to do or that sort of thing. And then we sort of sat down and chatted about it a lot, and the opportunity came up that to go and have a look at Kurrawa. And at the time, it was Kurrawa was thriving. You had Bevy, you had Pooley, you had a whole bunch of young guys who were absolutely flying at the time, and it sort of just fit. It worked well, and my now wife, partner at the time, she was at Burleigh as well, and she came with me up to Kurrawa, and it sort of it just turned out to be a great fit, and it was awesome.
Yeah. And what was that training squad like? The fact that you had Pooley and Bevy that have come from Mooloolaba, from Kingy, and you that's come from, well, you've been at Northcliffe and under Wes at Burleigh. What was that like?
It was cool. It was cool because it was sort of the way that it all worked. It just we had I'd say Nick Crilly. He was sort of the driver of the dedication of the training and that sort of thing. And then we had Barry Newman, who was helping us out, and he has been in the sport forever. Barry's an old dog of the sea, that's for sure, and he's seen a fair bit. And it was kind of cool to bounce ideas back and forth off him. And then obviously Bevy and Pooley, they had that whole background of Michael King and training up there, and so they were bouncing ideas off Barry and Crillies, and so it was cool. It was quite experimental, and it was it was fierce. It was every training session you turn up to, it was like, righto, we're on here. It was great. It was awesome.
and what about Pooley? Because I know there's a few stories. I know definitely at the Mooloolaba time, he had a bit of a fiery story, and he's a bit of a character. What was it like with him?
Pooley's a gentle giant, if you ask me. Nah, he was at the time, he was in prime form. He was at his, I'd say, somewhat of his peak of his career sort of thing. So, and Bevy and I have been same age group the whole way through pretty much. It sort of, we had that little fierce little rivalry there, but as I've always said, it's like in the ocean. You can hate each other, but the minute you get back to the beach, that all stops. It's to make an environment that's comfortable for everyone. You just let it go, move on if there's issues or anything like that. So, there was never any beef between any of us. Well, I don't think. Yeah, there might have been, but nah, for me, man, it was just good times. Just fun. Just great fun.
And you mentioned that your partner at the time, now your wife, Ali, she was a beach sprinter. Is
she wouldn't like that. She's not much of a sprinter. She's a bit more of a long distance. So she's in the 2K. Yeah, she takes. But at the time, she was Iron Woman.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
And you obviously had two kids. 2 kids, is it?
Yeah, we've got 2 kids now. Not at that time. It was sort of
Tell me a bit about that and life as an Ironman and father.
Yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a lot. As I said, we met in surf, and went to Burleigh and then came to Kurrawa together, and then she was like, I think my wrap up shop sort of thing, and then the whole COVID thing happened, and then we had our first child, and Laurie, and like it was interesting. Like it was a lot of juggling and trying to make everything work, but like I have to take my hats off to her. Like our household wouldn't run if it wasn't for her. Like we'd be in all sorts sort of things. So like it's tough, and like now we've got two, but we sort of live by a bit of a saying. It's like, tell me you don't have time. You just make it work whenever you can. Yes, there's a very large period of the day, or that you can't get things done because you got the kids, but there's always time either side. Like it just takes a bit of sacrifice to get up early, like even earlier, or go to bed that little bit later so you can go for a run at night or that sort of thing. So that's the way that we've sort of just managed it, and like we just try and live a life of adventure and just have fun, and it's pretty cool to now go down to Burleigh and of an afternoon and have Laurie and Lainey on the beach with Ali, and they're all sitting there. Just I'm out training, coming in, and then we like Laurie and I will go out and catch some waves, and it's cool, and it's cool to see a couple of other boys starting to, obviously at our age, it's when you start to have kids and that sort of thing, like Bevy and Daisy and Kendrick, like Pooley. Obviously he's retired now, but like we're at that age now where we do have kids, and it's still pretty. I'm forever grateful that I'm still able to do the sport, and have the support of my wife. Like it's special.
And now you talk a little bit about COVID, how you had a kid then. I guess the series came back after COVID for some racing, and then during the 2020-21 series, you decided to take some time off and away from the sport.
Yeah. I was still dabbling. I was still somewhat involved, and the year that the coming out of COVID, the first series that happened, I was an auto qualifier for that. So I obviously I raced in that season, and it was sort of I think it was a bit of a weird time for me. I think that was probably one of the biggest times that I got a little bit lost and sort of didn't really know what I wanted to do, what direction I was going in, and that sort of thing. And at times too, I was having a bit of trouble balancing work and training and all that sort of stuff, and income to the family and that sort of thing. So it was a bit of a rough trot, but eventually got through it, and I think the mentality that I kept of I just love it. I'm having fun, that sort of thing. That just got me through it, and still to this day, I'm just doing it because I love it and have fun.
Yeah. And then you came back from your little bit of a break, came back, made the series, and then raced a couple more seasons for Kurrawa, and then now you find yourself back at Burleigh, but under a new coach. How did that all spring?
Yeah, so that all came about. So Kurrawa ended up getting ex-Ironman Guy Andrews. He was our coach, and we gelled really well together. I found a lot of joy at training because it was a different approach as well. It was a little bit more science-based approach and that sort of thing at the time, and I was starting to show a bit of form as well, which was kind of nice. But then Guy ended up wanting to move on, or having to move on, and so it was like, all right, well, the wife and I, we sat down, and it was like, I suppose once again sort of went into a bit of a space of not knowing what to do or where to go, and a little bit of I guess mental disruption, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And I said, and it came down to us talking about it, and I said to Al, I don't think I'm done yet. Like, I still want to race and that sort of thing. And she goes, well, where would you go? What are you going to do? And forever, Michael King has always said, just come train with me, see what it's like, blah, blah, blah. And sure enough, I said, all right, let's give it a crack.
Yeah.
And, I got to say, it's probably one of the best things I've ever done. It's pretty incredible. He's been there, he's done that. He's like been an athlete. He's now the coach, and he definitely crosses his T's and dots his I's. He's an incredible bloke, and I've learnt so much just from the time that I've been with him, and even to the extent of going to the trial and feeling so fit and so strong, and it's been awesome.
Yeah. And now you're in that squad. It's a massive squad, and it's got guys as young as 17 in the series, all the way up to yourself, guys like you and Benny that are in their 30s. What's that like, training with such a big squad and I guess diverse? Have you ever experienced something like that?
Yeah, I suppose Curral was somewhat a little bit like that, but I think now like it's gone full circle for me. Like now I'm kind of the older guy of the squad. Well, I'm definitely the older guy at Burleigh, so it's sort of like, it's different. It's different. It's tough at training because these kids, they can just bounce back from the hardest of sessions and turn up the next day and still like go as hard as they want. And I definitely have found that I'm a little bit slower nowadays, so it's a little bit different. But it's so cool because it's just a way to push each other and really strive to try and succeed.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. And now you're at Burleigh. You've also, let's talk a little bit more outside of just surf sports and being an Ironman. Let's talk a bit more about your work-life balance. So you're a carpenter, and now you've gone into fireys, a bit full circle with that, wanting to be in emergency services. Can you tell me a bit about all of that and how you were managing everything? Yeah,
well, it's been a lot. It's been a lot, especially having two kids as well on top of that. And as I said, credit to my wife. Like she's a trooper putting up with me and what we do and that sort of thing. But it's been kind of cool. I didn't mention before, but I did a week's work experience in year 10 at school as a firefighter in New South Wales. So it was always like that was kind of my end goal. That's emergency services, firefighter sort of thing. And yeah, sure enough, went and got a trade, like was lucky enough to get a trade and do that. And then to eventually get into the fireys, it's tough to manage it all. And especially with the training, but I think, as I said, I've learned a lot of lessons prior, so now I can realise and understand what I need to do to get to the point where I can race and train at the level that I need to. I've balancing it all has been tough, but yeah, we're getting there. Somewhat.
And is that a bit taxing on the body as well? Obviously, being a fire is you got to be quite physical. It's not an office job.
Yeah, no, definitely. Being, as I said, having a trade, being a carpenter, that's some pretty hard work. A lot of lifting, a lot of that sort of stuff. So that sort of has carried through into the fire service, which has been kind of nice to have that background. And it's allowed me to sort of I think I'm injured at the moment, so let's be honest. Like the body is taking a toll, but I think there's also some things that I could probably be doing a little bit better to not let that happen. So I think, all in all, it's been a pretty big juggling act, and I've come off with a few scars and that sort of thing, but I'm still trying to just work it all out. I'm still trying to work it all out at the same time, and as I said, I still want to keep racing. So yeah.
And you just spoke that you are the body's a bit not broken, but a bit bruised, you might say. And you're dealing with an injury at the moment.
Yep.
How's that going?
Mate, it's a bit slow. Yeah. So I was at the series trial at Tugan, and I I was actually racing quite well. I felt really good. I felt fit, and as I said, like credit to Michael King because I actually put my toe on the line. I was like, oh, sweet, and I'm just going to go have some fun because I felt so good, that kind of thing. But yeah, got into the Sunday, and yeah, first race was pretty good. Second race, I was coming up for a sprint up the beach and was in an all right spot, and 12 mil tear in my Achilles in the insertion. So it's been pretty slow since. I've been working pretty hard in the physio and the gym and that sort of thing, just trying to rehab as quick as I can. But because it's my heel, there's limited blood flow, so repairing tendons and that sort of thing, it's slow. So, but just trying to make it work.
Yeah. And when are we expecting you back? Is that
good question?
Big question.
Good question. Look, at the moment, my goal is to actually just get back to work. So I'm off work at the moment. But yeah, the goal is to definitely get back to work, but also with racing and that sort of thing, I would hope that I might be able to come back for a race at, say, Manly Freshies, that sort of time. If not, I'd be pretty disappointed if I wasn't ready for the Shannon next time. So yeah. So hopefully we can get it done and just keep doing the work to get there. But yeah, she's slow.
And we just spoke about it. Once you're back, there's still something you want to tick off when that open iron.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. There's some goals there that have been set for quite a while.
Yeah. Can you tell me a few other ones that you've got?
Oh, look, I'd say definitely to win that open Ironman at Aussies. That's definitely top of the list for sure. I don't think it's ever been done by anyone from under 15s to opens, and whether I've got enough time to be able to get it done, being that I'm starting to get a bit longer in the tooth. That's what I'm striving for. But next year, next season, I'd like to, whether or not the wife lets me, whether or not she approves. But she's got some goals of her own in running, so we're just going to have to try and balance it, and obviously balance two kids. But I'd like to get back in the series and try and get a couple of podiums and that sort of thing. That'd be up there.
Oh yeah, nice. Now we've talked a bit, going along your timeline, and now we're up to now. I just want to pull apart, pick your brain a little bit of some points in your career as an athlete.
Yep.
You've done some pretty cool things, like you got the opportunity to go on deep water.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Can you tell me about that experience?
That was right place at the right time. That one.
Yeah.
That was I was sort of finding a bit of form, as a younger guy in the series and that sort of thing at that time, and it's just so worked out that unfortunately Ali Day got crook, so they needed someone to take his spot, and I got the call up. So sure enough, it was. I'd say it's probably one of the biggest highlights in my career. Being able to go on and do an event like that, it was it'd never been done before in our sport, so it was cool. It was it was a lot of different things, and some people sort of were like, oh, is this right or not? But I thought that it was wonderful. It was an experience, and it was challenging, especially being the youngest there. That was probably the toughest part, but as I said, it was cool.
Yeah.
we got to go to West Oz and experience Western Australia like you wouldn't in any other way, and then eventually ended up going over the States, and that was cool. That was a whirlwind trip, and unfortunately the body didn't hold up. Obviously I'd burnt the candle at both ends a little bit too much, and the shoulder didn't agree with some of the stuff that we did. So, but all in all, it was an awesome experience. Yeah. So cool.
Would you say you'd do it again?
Oh, at a drop of a hat.
Yeah.
Yeah. If if they said that they were going to do another series like that, I would hands down do anything I possibly could to get in that. It was probably one of the coolest things I've ever done.
Yeah, because
unreal.
I was, as a kid, I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Doing all these challenges. Yeah.
It was I think the coolest part was, it was like, we're doing all these different challenges.
Yeah.
But it was still tied to Ironman. So and surf life saving, which is, like, it's cool because you actually get to see the other side of, the way that other people would, like their boys would react to things that they're not used to. So that's what I found was the coolest part. Like, it was experimental, and I think it went off like a hit. Like, they didn't do another one, unfortunately, but you never know. They might turn around and say, let's do it again.
Hear that, Shuren Partners?
Yeah, Shuren Partners, let's do it. Come on. I'll help you organise it.
Yeah.
And then let me be in it.
Yeah. And what was your favourite moment of it all? Like, did you have a favourite event or just moment, or what was it?
I think probably the first series over in WA. That was a pinch me moment, because at one stage we were driving along in the middle of nowhere in a Prado, cruising along I was sitting in the back going, I'm sitting next to Zane Holmes, Wes Berg, Shannon Eckstein, and at the time Joel Parkinson was in the car, and I was sitting there going, I'm a kid from northern New South Wales, and I'm sitting in the car with these blokes and like just yarning and having a great time, and that was like this is cool. Like, I never thought this would happen. So that was probably the biggest pinch me moment.
And it wasn't without controversy, of course. The first,
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Kai Hurst saying, Eckstein brothers saying Kai cut the can. Was that heated, or was that more dramatised because of the cameras, or was that pretty heated?
Oh, it was 50-50. I'll say 50-50, and like, I think I was like, being the youngest, I was like, I'm not treading on anyone's toes here. I'm staying out of this. But yeah, there was some interesting language used and that sort of thing. But there was a bit of, like, of course it's a TV show, so they got to try and sell it up a little bit. But there was a little bit of controversy, a little bit heated. But we're all mates, so we all got along.
Is that the reason why Shannon and Kane didn't come back the next year for it?
Oh, who knows? Who knows? Yeah, that's a question you'd have to ask them. I'm not going to speculate on that one.
Good call. Don't want to ruffle too many feathers.
I'll stay out of that one.
And you just talked about your pinch me moment being probably the best moment. Did you have that along the series? Because the series back in the day, you used to all be, was it the Billabong bus back then, or was that a bit before your time? The Billabong bus was, I think, maybe 2 years before I got on. So, but in the series, like my first series, as I said, like I was racing in the likes of Zane, Shannon, Kai, Phil Clayton, Hugh Doherty, guys, and like especially Hugh, being from Yamba, northern New South Wales, I'd always idolised him and that sort of thing. And, I still remember vividly the first race. It was at Surfers Paradise, and they did the draw, and I was standing next to Zane Holmes on the line, and like, I don't want to puff him up too much, but Zane's been like my idol forever. And sure enough, like, I drew the card to stand on the line next to him, and I just remember I was standing there, and like, he was so in the zone, he was so focused and ready to race, and I was just standing there going, oh, that's Zane Holmes next to me. I'm next to Zane. And like, it was just like, I was still a little kid at the time, kind of thing. Like, and it was pretty funny, because after the race, he said, you kept looking at me. Like, why were you looking at me? I was like, mate, I was standing next to Zane Holmes, my idol. Of course I'm going to look at you. I'm like, come on. And he's like, mate, you're meant to be focusing on the race. And I was like, okay. All right, sweet. Next time I'll make sure I do that. Yeah.
But yeah, at the time I was just like, this is unreal. This is pretty special. Yeah, it was cool.
Was Zane a bit of a mentor to you while you're at Northcliffe?
Yeah, definitely. It sort of, it sort of all came together that I ended up working at Dolphin Surfcraft for Zane. So yeah, he was definitely a mentor for me. And you know, at Northcliffe at the time, he was sort of having a bit of trouble with his back, and he was training a lot, but not heaps because of that. And yeah, so you know, now him being a fireman as well in the Queensland Fire Service, it's pretty cool that I still get to hang out alongside him and that sort of thing. And you know, as I said, I worked for 5 years full time at Dolphin Surfcraft, so you know, every day there was times that, you know, myself, Crystal Smith and Zane, we'd go down to the beach, just us on our lunch break, and go and do a transition session and that sort of thing. So yeah, Zane's definitely been, you know, a mentor to me. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so cool.
Pretty. Yeah, I was like, yeah, it's so cool.
When you first moved up to Queensland, what were you doing outside of surf sports? Just other than working at Dolphin, obviously.
Yeah, well, I was 18, so I was pretty, like, when I first moved up, so I was pretty like, well, how's this? I'm on the Gold Coast. I got no parents to answer to, that sort of thing. So yeah, there was some fun nights out, and the boys, we used to get up to a bit of mischief, but for the majority of the time we were just training. We were, like, at the time there was a crew that was just, we were so locked in, like the younger guys were so locked in and that sort of thing, is our age group, the under 19s. And yeah, like, we were just pushing each other, but we surfed so much. Like, if we weren't training, we were out surfing pretty much. Like, yeah, it was cool.
Was there, well, I guess in your whole career, any just moments or stories, funny or bizarre, that you want to share?
Oh, no, I can't. You put me on the spot here. No, funny or bizarre?
Like any pranks you and the juniors used to get up to ruffle the feathers of the seniors at Northcliffe, or anything like that?
Oh, no, not that I can think of. I know Shannon, like, I think sometimes a few of the boys, well, I was somewhat involved. Sometimes we'd try and ruffle Shannon's feathers because, you know, like, the professor, he was so just calculated. Everything was just to a T. And I think a few of the times the boys, I might have been involved, just trying to do little things just to sort of test the waters kind of thing. But yeah, nah, for the most part, we were good. We weren't too much mischief in that regard.
Didn't want to get on his bad side.
Nah, I didn't want to get on his bad side because, you know, you'd be praying for a wash out to the Cairns. Yeah. So you didn't want to miss that for sure.
And you just talked about how he was the professional of it all. What was it like training with him?
It was a learning experience. Every single session was a learning experience, and he was, yeah, as I said, he was so calculated. He was like so professional at, you know, trying to take as many leaves out of his book to you know, do it. It was cool. It was really cool to sort of be in that. Like, I think I look at it, and, you know, obviously other people, like younger people and older people, sort of have different views on it. But I think I look at the time that I have had in the series and that sort of thing, and the time at the club that I had. You know, the guys who I've been able to race and look up to, it's been prime time, like, you know, for the series. You know, for a little bit there, we had a little bit of a downturn, but, you know, I my first couple of years in the series, you know, I was in the prime time. Like, Guy Leach was running the series at the time, and he was putting some money back into the sport and that sort of thing, and then sort of dwindled out a little bit, and then obviously we had COVID and stuff like that. But you know, now I look at it and I look at what, you know, Shaw and Partners and Earl and Trent, even Trent Goulding, you know, with the World Ocean Series now, like, it's all come together, and like, I feel like I'm pretty lucky to have been able to experience so many different changes throughout the sport. It's been cool. It's been a wild ride, that's for sure.
And you talking about all the changes in the sport, it was pretty high when you started off your Opens career. What do you think, compared to now, where does it stand? Where does today's Iron Series, or I guess surf sports scene, sit compared to there?
Oh, like,
in your
I think
opinion?
I think I look at when I first got in and the guys, like you look at, for example, prime example, Shannon. You know, was it 9 that he eventually won or something like that?
Yeah.
Like 9 series or something like that. You know, that is incredible. And then, you know, we had the likes of Ali Day, like, you know, cooling out of gold, like all that sort of racing, that's hard racing. And for me, I look at it and I go, you know, that was some of the toughest racing I'll ever see and ever get to do. And I'm not trying to take anything away from the boys nowadays, but you know, you look at the likes of the changes and the results and that sort of thing at the moment, and you know, it's credit to the boys as well. Like, you know, now like there's so many people who can win.
It's not as much as
It's
a
not
dominance
as much
now.
of a dominance now.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, at the time when I first got in, it was just like it was the Shannon, Zane, Kai show. Like they were just, and Kane, you know, like they were just so strong, and you know, and Ali Day as well, you know, like they were, if they weren't in the top 5, you'd be going, oh, they've had a rough day, like that sort of thing, you know. So, and you know, to today, like you never really know because they've retired, they're not racing the boys of today. But I look at it now and I'm still doing it, so I'm still racing in that sort of scene, and you know, they're flying. The boys are flying, and you know, as I said, anyone can win. Like you can look at any final and go, you know what, it's a credit just to be in the final, because the semi-finals are the hardest out of all of them. And especially nowadays, like it's tough. It's fierce racing. So, you know, I'm trying to lean on a little bit more experience now. That's for sure, and you know, hopefully some of it pays off. I'm feeling pretty fit, so.
Watch out for the return.
Oh, geez, careful what you say. I don't want to put too much out there.
Is there someone that you see in these young guys that you going, he's going to be the next Shannon or Ali, and think will have like a dominance, or are you really thinking it's going to still be, I guess, kind of even in the fact that anyone can still win it?
I haven't really, look, in all honesty, I haven't really seen one person that's like, that you could say, yeah, look out, this is going to be the next Shannon, or, you know, or the next Ali. There is the likes of, you know, Finn Askew, who's shown a lot of form. Like there's guys like Bevy and that who, you know, obviously have raced Daisy and guys in the past, but yeah, like I think that the level of training, the level of racing across the board, like there is a list so long that any of the blokes could win it. Yeah. And to say, oh, you know, that they're looking like the next sort of Shannon Eckstein or Ali Day, there's not really anyone that, you know, really, really stands out, because the caliber of athlete is so high at the moment. So, you know, I believe that, you know, there will be, and maybe I just haven't quite seen it yet, but I reckon, it's just a free for all at the moment.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Just so many young kids winning it all.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, there's so many young guys who are just, you know, coming through,
and then you still got the old guys. Well, not old, but Ali and Bevy still can lead races. Like, obviously, like
I think Corey Taylor said it best after the Cooley Gold. He's like, you know, there's been the whole talk of, you know, the next gen and all this sort of stuff, and then, you know, the generation's still here. So, it was, you know, like that was cool. Like Bevy, Daisy, and Corey Taylor.
Yeah,
like,
so sick.
It's cool to see that, and you know, and that's the thing. Like those guys, like those three boys who went on the podium for the gold, like you just go, you know, like.
And does that keep you hungry? Like seeing that all these guys that are similar age to you, they're still on that podium and they're not falling behind.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Like that, that's to me, that's my age group, and I look at that and I go, man, they're on the podium there. I can do that again.
Yeah.
Hopefully. It's going to be hard, but yeah, as I said, I've got some goals, and I've just got to just keep working at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, I just wanted to ask, can be from anyone, any point of life, best advice you've been given.
Best advice I've been given. Probably. Jeez, it's a hard one because there's a lot. There's a lot of advice. I've been around a little while, so look, I've always stuck by. I don't know where it's come from. I don't know why I have it, but it's always have fun.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not having fun, what's the point in doing it?
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest thing about my mentality now. It's like, train hard, work hard, do everything you possibly can, but have fun. Because there's no point in doing anything unless you're having fun.
Yeah, it's so good. Such a good philosophy to have.
Yeah, it's served me pretty well, so I'm just going to keep rolling with it.
Yeah. Now, one final question before we wrap up. Next week, Hayden Kenny, you're obviously out for it.
Yep.
So you can get a bit of a scope on, I guess it's, fair. You can pick someone in the field now that you're not in it. Who do you reckon will win the Iron Men and Iron Women? I just want to throw that one out.
Oh, geez, it's a tough one because, as I said, the field is so strong. But, I think I'm going to have to back the big dog, Ali Day.
Yeah.
He's having his maiden voyage and really enjoying it, and you can see that he's just enjoying racing and that sort of thing. So, obviously Bonnie Hills didn't really go to plan for him. So, I hope, but I also believe that, Daisy for the win for sure.
Awesome. And in the women's?
The women's, geez, tough field. Look, I have to say, I'd probably say Emmy Doyle.
Yeah.
I feel like Emmy Doyle's got one coming, got a win coming. She obviously showed a bit of form down at
Bonnie Hills.
Bonnie Hills, she
winning that ski,
winning the ski race. She and her partner Dan. I'm close with him, and obviously I see Emmy a little bit, and talking with her about it, and she seems pretty driven, and she's got some goals for herself. So I'd love to see her get up there and take a win in the Iron. That'd be cool.
There you go, Tanyn's tips.
Yeah, I'll call
Ali and Emmy. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, see how we go.
Well, Tanyn, thank you very much for joining me on the podcast today, and I've had fun. I hope you've had fun.
Well, I've had a ball, mate. Thank you so
awesome.
much. It's been awesome.
Going to wrap up there, and I hope you guys, the viewers, enjoyed this episode because it was a good one.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tanyn.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.